Have you ever spoken too soon, only to regret the words that escaped your mouth? Most people live as prisoners of their tongue, reacting before reflecting, talking before thinking. But the truth is, mastering silence is one of the greatest powers you can ever develop. We live in a world where noise is constant. People rush to fill every gap in conversation, afraid that silence will expose them. But silence is not emptiness, it is mastery. The urge to speak often comes from insecurity, from the fear of being unseen, unheard, or irrelevant. We rush to interrupt because we want to prove we matter. Yet the irony is this: the less you speak unnecessarily, the more your words begin to matter. When you control the urge to speak, people lean in when you finally do. Your words carry weight because they are no longer wasted. Think of fire. If it burns uncontrolled, it destroys. But when channeled, fire gives warmth, cooks food, and powers entire cities. Words are the same. Uncontrolled, they burn bridges, wound hearts, and weaken respect. Controlled, they inspire, heal, and move nations. To control the urge to speak is to control fire within yourself. It's not about silence for the sake of silence. It's about discipline. It's about knowing that every word you release is an arrow. You must choose carefully where it lands. The urge to speak often arises from ego. We want to prove we are right. We want the last word. We want the spotlight. But here's the paradox. The one who speaks less is often seen as wiser than the one who speaks more. Wisdom is not measured by the quantity of words, but by their depth. And depth only comes from restraint. It comes from observing, listening, and choosing to speak only when it truly serves. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the most respected. It is the voice that speaks at the right time, with the right words, in the right tone. Consider how powerful silence is. Silence intimidates. Silence heals. Silence teaches. Silence allows space for truth to rise. Have you ever noticed in an argument, the one who controls their silence gains the upper hand? The one who reacts with words often loses ground, but the one who breathes, observes, and chooses carefully holds the power. Silence unsettles those who rely on noise. Silence creates an aura of strength that words can rarely achieve. When you master silence, you are no longer controlled by impulses. You become the master of yourself. But controlling the urge to speak is not easy, because speaking is addictive. We want to fill the air with ourselves. We crave the validation that comes from being heard. Yet the strongest souls know when to step back. They know that listening reveals more than speaking ever could. By holding back, you gather information. You understand people more deeply. You see their motives, their fears, their truth. And when you finally speak, your words strike like lightning, precise and undeniable. Ask yourself, how many times have you said something you wished you could take back? How many relationships suffered because you spoke in anger? How many opportunities slipped because you couldn't hold your tongue? Every moment of regret tied to words is a reminder of the power you hold. The discipline to wait, to listen, to pause before responding is the difference between wisdom and folly. When you can sit with silence, you free yourself from the chains of impulsive speech. Here's the secret. Silence is not weakness. It is strength. Anyone can talk endlessly, but few can restrain their tongue. It takes courage to remain quiet when your ego is screaming to be heard. It takes power to let others speak and not interrupt. It takes mastery to let silence work in your favor. People confuse silence with passivity, but silence is often the loudest statement you can make. In silence, you refuse to be dragged into noise. In silence, you remain unshaken, grounded, untouchable. But controlling the urge to speak does not mean never speaking. It means speaking with precision. It means your words are sharp, clear, and intentional. Like a sword, you don't swing it wildly, you unsheath it only when necessary. Imagine if every word you spoke was chosen as carefully as a sculptor's chisel striking stone. Would your relationships not transform? Would your influence not grow? When people know your words are rare but meaningful, they begin to treasure them. You no longer speak just to be heard. you speak to be remembered. One of the greatest secrets of powerful people is this: they speak less than they know. They do not reveal everything. They hold back because mystery strengthens their presence. The urge to explain, to justify, to fill silence, these weaken your aura. Control the urge, and suddenly people begin to wonder about you. They lean in, they pay attention, they respect your restraint. Power is not in speaking more, it is in making every word count. Think of water. When it flows uncontrolled, it floods and destroys. But when directed, it turns turbines, creates energy, and sustains life. Your words are water. Left uncontrolled, they spill everywhere, creating chaos. But when harnessed, they refresh, nurture, and inspire. You must become the dam that controls the flow, releasing only what is needed, only what has purpose. This is how you turn words into wisdom. So, how do you control the urge? The first step is awareness. Catch yourself before the impulse overtakes you. When you feel the pressure to speak rising, pause. Ask, does this serve me? Does this serve them? Does this need to be said? If the answer is no, let silence carry the moment. Second, practice patience. Allow others to finish before you respond. Third, remember the weight of your words. Every word costs energy. Make sure it's worth the price. With time, you'll find silence no longer feels uncomfortable. It feels powerful. You'll begin to notice how much you hear when you're not rushing to reply. You'll see the games people play, the emotions behind their words, the truths hidden in their pauses. And because you are not rushing to fill the air, you learn to control the room without dominating it. Silence makes you magnetic. Silence makes you respected. Silence makes you free. The urge to speak is a battle between impulse and mastery. If you give in to impulse, your words scatter like dust in the wind. Here today, forgotten tomorrow. But if you choose mastery, your words become monuments, lasting, remembered, and powerful. Imagine a life where your words heal more than they hurt, inspire more than they destroy, build more than they break. That life begins with the choice to control your tongue. You do not need to be the loudest voice in the room. You only need to be the one whose voice carries weight, and weight comes from discipline. Every pause, every silence, every withheld word adds gravity to what you eventually say. Control your speech, and you control perception. Control perception, and you control influence. Influence begins with silence, not sound. So the next time the urge rises within you, breathe. Remember the strength of silence. Remember the fire of words and their power to build or destroy. Remember that your voice becomes stronger not by saying more, but by saying less with greater meaning. Choose to be the one whose silence speaks louder than noise. Choose to control the urge to speak, and in doing so, you will discover the greatest form of self-mastery. Because in the end, it's not about how much you say, it's about how deeply your words live after they are spoken. Speak less, mean more, and let silence remind the world of your strength. The less you speak unnecessarily, the more your words carry weight, for silence is the canvas on which meaning is painted. When you rush to fill the air with sound, you dilute the impact of what you say. A single word spoken with restraint can carry more force than 100 words tossed carelessly into the wind. Imagine how different people would see you if every word you spoke felt like it came with intent. The secret is not in speaking often, but in speaking with purpose. Those who guard their tongue guard their power. Every pause, every moment of quiet makes the listener lean in closer. They sense the strength behind your silence, the patience in your pause, the mastery in your control. This is how leaders move hearts, by ensuring their words are not noise, but music. When you speak less, people begin to trust more, for they know you will not waste their time. Silence teaches the world that your voice matters, precisely because it is rare. You don't have to fight for attention when silence makes others crave your speech. Words are seeds, and silence is the fertile ground where they grow tall. If you want to be remembered, stop scattering, plant intentionally. Uncontrolled words destroy, but disciplined words inspire and heal, for a tongue left unguarded is sharper than a sword. In anger, people throw daggers from their lips only to regret the wounds they've left behind. The wise, however, understand that discipline turns words into medicine. When you learn to master the urge to speak, you begin to turn chaos into calm. A careless remark can break trust that takes years to build, while a thoughtful word can mend what seemed shattered. Power lies not in the loudness of your voice, but in the precision of your expression. Discipline doesn't mean silence forever, it means knowing when and how to speak. Each word becomes a tool, not a weapon, shaping minds, hearts, and lives. Think of the way a kind phrase can stop storms inside another person. Healing begins in restraint, and influence grows when people feel uplifted by your presence. Your discipline will separate you from the restless majority, who cannot help but pour their noise into the world. Remember, the more careless your words, the weaker your image; the more disciplined, the stronger your impact. Words are energy, use them to build, not to break. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery and strength, because silence is the unseen crown worn by the wise. The world often misinterprets quiet as submission, but it is the opposite. Silence is power withheld. Anyone can shout, but it takes true authority to withhold speech when provoked. To stay calm when others are loud is to show who is truly in control. Silence cannot be defeated, because it cannot be argued with. When you withhold words, you confuse the reckless, you unsettle the arrogant, and you intrigue the curious. Strength does not need to prove itself through noise. It shines through its very calm. Those who mistake silence for weakness eventually discover that it was the highest form of self-command. Silence is the ocean beneath the waves, steady, deep, unshaken. The one who can master silence can master situations. The one who does not need to defend every thought proves that he already rules his mind. Weakness is the rush to react. Strength is the choice to hold steady. When silence is mastered, you become untouchable. You do not need to convince others, because your calm presence already convinces them. The urge to speak comes from ego, but restraint creates respect. Ego wants to prove, to argue, to display its knowledge, but the wise realize that proving is unnecessary. The more the ego pushes to dominate the room, the more fragile it reveals itself to be. Yet the one who holds back words displays confidence without even trying. Restraint communicates that you do not need validation from others. It tells the world that you are secure enough not to fight for attention. Respect naturally grows in the presence of self-control, because people admire the ability to remain composed. When you resist the urge to speak, you show strength beyond what words could achieve. Ego lives for applause. Mastery lives in silence. People may not always agree with your silence, but they will remember it. In the moments when your ego screams to respond, pause, because the pause is where true authority is born. Silence humbles the self and elevates the soul. Restraint turns the noise of the crowd into the music of respect. Those who rule their tongue rule the space they stand in. Listening reveals more truth than endless talking ever can, because the ear gathers what the mouth wastes. In conversations, most people are not truly listening. They are waiting for their turn to speak. But when you listen deeply, you discover what others miss. You hear the cracks between their words, the emotions beneath their tone, the truths they did not intend to reveal. Listening is power, because knowledge is power, and silence gathers knowledge. The one who listens understands not only what is said, but what is left unsaid. Endless speaking drowns you in your own voice, but silence makes you rich in the voices of others. When you listen, you gain the advantage, for others reveal themselves while you remain mysterious. A talker exposes his thoughts, a listener collects them. By saying less, you understand more, and in understanding more, you gain control. Listening is not passive, it is active wisdom. When you listen, people feel valued, and in return, they trust you. Knowledge earned through silence is the foundation of influence. Speak less to learn more, listen more to rise higher. Silence unsettles others and gives you the upper hand in any situation. People expect reactions, arguments, and responses. When you give none, they lose balance. Silence creates a mystery that forces others to fill the space, with their own assumptions. It is in silence that people reveal more than they planned because they feel compelled to break it. Those who control silence control tension. Silence can make the guilty confess, the arrogant doubt, and the proud grow restless. It is a weapon sharper than words because it forces others to reveal themselves while you remain hidden. Power resides not in speaking first, but in holding your ground without sound. Silence makes others wonder what you are thinking, and in their wondering, they lose certainty. The quiet person is unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. When you refuse to feed conflict with words, you starve it into weakness. Silence places the weight of action on others, while you conserve your strength. Control silence, and you control the pace of every encounter. Your words are arrows. Choose carefully where they land, because once released, they cannot be taken back. An arrow shot in haste may hit the wrong target, wounding without purpose, but an arrow released with precision changes everything. Words shape reputations, build bridges, or burn them down. One moment of careless speech can undo years of respect, but one well-timed phrase can open doors of opportunity that would never otherwise appear. The secret is not to shoot many arrows, but to shoot the right ones at the right time. Your words are not free. They come at the cost of your image, your integrity, and your future. If you aim recklessly, you destroy. If you aim wisely, you create. To control speech is to control destiny, because your words write the script others read of you. Speak with awareness, because what you say lingers long after the sound has faded. Let your arrows fly only when you know they will serve your higher purpose. People treasure words that are rare, intentional, and meaningful. When something is abundant, it loses value. When it is scarce, it becomes precious. This is the power of silence. Your words become a rare currency. If you speak all the time, people begin to tune you out. But if you hold back, every word feels like a gift. Imagine if your sentences carried the weight of gold because of their rarity. People would lean in, waiting, listening, valuing. Scarcity creates demand, and silence creates that scarcity. When your voice is not always heard, its return feels like an event. To become unforgettable, make your words treasures, not loose change scattered in the street. Speak less, and people will listen more. Each phrase you release will be measured, weighed, and remembered. In a world drowning in noise, be the voice that matters, because it is rare. Powerful individuals always speak less than they know. They understand that the urge to display knowledge often betrays insecurity. The strongest leaders rarely reveal the full extent of what they understand, for their silence is strategy. To withhold words is not ignorance, it is control. Speaking less keeps others guessing, while over-talking exposes all your thoughts and weaknesses. Those who reveal too much lose influence, because predictability kills power. The wise know that silence creates leverage. What you keep hidden gives you advantage. Restraint allows you to observe while others expose themselves. A powerful person does not compete in noise, they dominate in silence. When you speak less, you maintain authority, because no one can pin you down. Knowledge is not power until it is paired with restraint. Speak less than you know, and you will always hold the upper hand. Silence makes you magnetic, respected, and free. People are drawn to those who do not beg for attention with constant words. Mystery creates attraction, and silence builds mystery. Respect follows those who control their speech, because their presence speaks louder than noise. Freedom lies in not being enslaved by the compulsion to respond. When you are no longer trapped by the urge to speak, you master your emotions, your image, and your destiny. Silence frees you from regret, because you do not say what cannot be taken back. Silence frees you from dependence on approval, because you are not seeking validation through words. Silence frees you from chaos, because it makes space for clarity. People are fascinated by those who seem unshaken, who do not rush to fill the air. They feel something different, something magnetic. Silence gives you dignity, and dignity commands respect. In silence you are untouchable, admired, and complete.